rock. So get your questions ready and let's start discussing what exactly you want to know from the people you speak to every day.
Yeah.
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. And here we go, everybody. Welcome back. And
Daman again.
What?
Daman again. Daman is wanting to get on the show Friday.
Daman doesn't have to go to the contest to get on the show. Let's go. Let's do this. And then Jeff came in, and then Lisa, and then we got good old Greg coming in. Boom. Let's do this.
Yes, let's do this.
We're a continuation of a show that got to kind of cut off early, if you will. And Tony's assured us he's retooled and he's got a bunch of things.
Doors are locked.
He locked the door. He locked the door.
And he is ready to rock and roll for y'all. So big thing for today, everyone. Obviously, if you're watching live, you're in a great position. If you're not watching live, the first question is, why the hell aren't you watching live? But second statement then comes, well, fortunately, you're not able to ask any questions. So Tony's here to answer your questions. DJ and I got a bunch of questions to ask him to help all you sales reps get better at what you do and help you really get to that next level of sales. So that's what Client Day Tuesdays is all about, bringing in as many clients as we can to share their perspective on really what gets their ear. And, Tony, I'll start. What gets your ear, my friend, these days?
Yes,
man. I'll tell you what turns me off first. And I just shared a post about this. I think that every form letter is the same. Hi, I am so and so. We have 8 billion assets and stuff in our network, and I know you get hit up all the time, and your time is precious. So I am the best one that you're going to hear from today or this week or tomorrow or whatever. And here's why we're different, because we can offer you intermodal. I don't use intermodal at all. We can offer you parcel. Don't need it. We can do reefer. Windows don't need refrigerated, man. And just do your homework. It's lazy. So the ones that I like are, hey, I see that you ship in dry vans. I see that you're located in North Central Indiana. I have a network of people in that area, and I know dry van freight in that area. I know who's coming in and out of where and how I can match that up with you. Give me intelligent, less lazy content. It's not about how many emails you send out. How good are they?
Now, do you look for people that focus more on the business side or more on the personal side?
Either one's fine.
Either one.
I mean, I've had people that hit me up that hey, I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while. I got a couple of questions. That's cool. I'll try to answer. I'll try and help anyone I can. The post about the form letter was a joke. I've had I bet you probably 20 people offered to pay for the letter. I don't want it. I'm not writing letters. That's not what I'm in. But I will gladly critique. If you want to send me something and have me look it over, I'll tell you what I think, and I'll be honest, because I have no skin in the game here. But I want you to be better because I'm reading them.
That's interesting. So I'd be curious to see how many people take you up on that after you just said that, because when Dean said that, he started getting a flood of people when it came to data. So you might have just opened Pandora's box, brother.
That's all right. If we can make the industry better, let's do it.
If you needed more help, it's coming, Tony. That's all.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, Tony. Right? Is like yourself, John Brewer, all the other guests we have on. There's a very similar thread, and they're trying to make the industry better.
Yeah.
I've often shared with salespeople that you got to imagine how many phone calls you get. And so, and that it's going to slide right into our next question, because we're very interested. Like, we know there was an uptick in calls when COVID hit and everything, but if you were to measure kind of pre-COVID and then now, how many more calls a day or week would you say you get?
Oh man. In the last month, I'll bet it's quadrupled.
In the last month, really?
Just the last month, really?
Well, you know what, DJ? I wonder if it's because people realize they're not anywhere close to achieving their goals, right? We all, there's these ebbs and flows, right? Well, but I mean, here's the thing, right? So you start, if you looked at just and just take LinkedIn, for example, right? Pre-Jan 1 and probably the first 2 weeks of January, the entire buzz was, hey, make this year the best year ever, make this year the best year ever. And then there's this kind of ebb that goes down where people, get sick of winter, whatever it is, on vacation, whatever. And then right about now, people start realizing, holy shit, I'm nowhere close to my goals. And we're going in, counting. Oh my god! And we're going into
how many quarters are there?
Yeah, but now we're going into some of the slowest months from a conversion perspective, not necessarily business. So I want to make that very clear to all the listeners, but a conversion, right? People are starting to go on vacation. What's the last? And Tony, here's a good question for you. Do you find times of the year that you're going to bring people in more than others? And what I mean by that is, you're about to go on vacation or you're 2 weeks away from going on vacation. Are you less likely to bring a new supplier in because you don't want the hassles maybe leading up to or on your vacation?
Absolutely. I don't want to babysit you while I'm not working.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're getting into the nitty gritty here.
Well, hold on. There's some good questions in the audience too.
Yes, and I'm looking at them.
Okay.
So question for you then, Tony. At what point before and after do you kind of mentally create a cutoff for new companies coming in?
Well, man, I don't remember the last time I actually onboarded a carrier or broker or. We have a team at corporate that does that. So here's the little secret that everybody hits me up on. I can't even onboard you if I wanted to. But when I was the guy, I don't want to put anybody on board right before I'm going to be gone, because as a carrier partner, as a broker partner, I am responsible for your performance to my boss, to my team, to my customer. Exactly. And I'm not putting my name, my work, my career on the line to take a chance on somebody who is unknown to me. So we'll start out slow. That's cool.
I'm so glad you shared that, Tony, because I think that's what we brokers, you got to understand. This is, like he just said, his job on the line. It might sound extreme, but it's the truth. I mean, what we do for him is going to relay up top, and he can't say, "Oh, well, it's the broker's fault." You can't say that.
They don't care. I failed.
No, yeah, 100%. I mean, the main theme leading up to 2022 was we can't be wrong. The next time we onboard somebody, we can't be wrong. And so it's interesting because if we look at that kind of timeline, so, like 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, what would be your cutoff? 2 weeks before you went on vacation kind of thing?
Oh, yeah.
At least. So if we look at that just from an at least 2 weeks before, then you're on vacation for a week. Then when you get back, it's not like, oh my God, I can't wait to get back to the office and onboard DJ because he waited for me for 3 weeks. No offense, but it's like, so now you're a week into it. So, and that's the big reason I share this, is because you're talking a month before there's even probably conversation of being onboarded. So for all of you watching, listening that aren't 75% towards your goal starting in 3 days or 2 days, you're in a bit of a behind, because if you have 15 companies that you're looking at onboarding and all of them have vacation, theirs are going to be different times. Now you're running July and August. Now you're back into the groove. But September, you're already almost finished Q3. Now you have you know what I mean? So there's this huge gap in delay. I think it's insane. So let's get to some of this. So Jeff says, good morning, Tony. Antoine, good morning, my man.
Hey, Jeff.
So Jeff says, Tony, as a shipper for Lippert, an aftermarket multi-vehicle manufacturer, what's more important to you? You can only pick one: value, cost, or service, and why? No, you can't choose all three.
No.
Jeff, I love that you said that. So that is, go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
So I'll leave this up, Tony, so you can see it as well.
So Jeff is a veteran, and I respect his question a lot. I've been following him for a couple of years now. Great guy too. Man, if I had to pick just one, it's probably value, because I'm going to get the service at a cost, and that is the value. But it can't be just service. It can't be just cost. if you're going to be purely transactional, then, you're going to be in a dumpster fire half the time, and you get what you pay for. I'm all right with paying more than the minimum bid, but I'm also all right with saying, hey, I've got a bid for this. Can you at least match that? And then I can use somebody I want to use instead of somebody I'm going to have to answer for not using, because we have reports too.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the, so if you can bring us into your world for a second, what are some of the KPIs that, or even get the whole KPI crap out of the way, what are some of the things that you measure and that your bosses measure in order to see if your department's performing? What are kind of the top three?
Cost is huge because we're a publicly traded company. So whenever I spend more than the minimum, I have to answer for that. And there's a report that comes out at the end of the month. So at corporate, they can build a report off of our TMS system that says, Tony at this plant spent X number of dollars more than we could have, and it's just all lumped together. So I'm going to have to answer for that. Well, I had a hot load that was production critical, next day delivery for the production schedule for that day, and it had to be here at 6 a.m. So I'm not going to use the most affordable carrier that I don't know and have never heard of. I'm going to use a guy who I have a cell phone number that will answer when I call him on a Saturday, if need be. So sometimes it's that value. The value comes from the relationship. Again, everybody talks about relationships being the most important part of this piece of logistics partnerships, and they're very true. If you've burned me in the past, I'll give you a second shot, and if it wasn't like horrible, but when you come to me and you've lost a load, the carrier's gone, you can't find the truck, and we go ahead and make the freight claim or whatever because the guy ditched and you can't find the driver or the truck or the load. And then you come to me tomorrow asking me for a load because you need more. You're going to have to give me a good reason why I should do that. And just because you're the bottom price doesn't mean I want to. I have to answer for that, but I've got a real good answer, and it's MIA.
So, Tony, you mentioned something that was pretty interesting to me, and I'm curious to see where that comes from. How do we know what's more than what we should be paying? I mean, the market is shifting astronomically at rates faster than we've ever seen. We're seeing fuel rising, spot market dropping, rates. So where does your company, or where do you get the data that says this is the market price?
So in our TMS, we have spot bids and we have contract rates, and we've done like what everybody wants to call a mini bid here recently, because second half of the year is obviously going to be different than the first half as the fuel has changed so much. There's a fuel surcharge, and if I have a load, we'll look at contract rates for that lane that people did during the whole RFP thing or RFQ, and then I'll spot bid stuff all the time just to see where we're at. I don't have to book it in spot, but I can get a good feel. Then I can turn around.
Your actual contract, your bids that you put out are the baseline that you would determine if you're paying more or less than what your contract rates would be.
Yeah, we compare spot to contract all the time, every day, no matter what, and then see where we're at. And we're going to make the best use of our money for the best value, for the best carrier. Again, it's value. What's the best carrier I can get at the lowest price?
Okay.
So carriers and brokers, you better know your costs.
Exactly. No, for sure. How do you get the spot costs? Is that through a network of people that you work with, where you say, hey, what's the
we can actually publish a bid, and then the carriers that are paying attention can bid.
Yeah.
Got it. So there's your spot, and you compare that against your contract rates that is already in your TMS. Got it. Okay.
Almost like it sounds almost like they teach on the brokering side of ghost posting to find out what a lane is running at.
Well,
except it's a real load.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's
exactly.
It's kind of the
except there's something really there.
So now, Tony, do you have your suppliers that maybe, so for example, you do a mini bid and you say, okay, XYZ company, you got awarded the number one lane on this mini bid, and then all of a sudden the volume's not there because the volume goes to spot? Or is that when you go back to your supplier and say, hey, spot rates are doing this today, is there anything you can do? Or how do you manage that situation?
If it's going to be a dramatic shift where there's going to be a big difference between the contract rates and spot, then we'll let them know, hey man, guys, the bid's old, it's not current with the market, so let's just spot bid it and see where we're at.
Got it. Okay. So the incumbent that got awarded the business is still going to have an opportunity to spot bid it regardless of what's going on in the
Sure.
market. Got it.
Sure.
Okay. I'm just trying to get everything cleared up here. So Lisa says, fire is lit under them now. The year is halfway over. Ryan's got a question. Question for you, Tony. As a sales rep, we use some lead generation applications. How do you personally feel about being cold called message on your personal phone? Great question, Ryan.
Great question.
This is, for legal reasons, this is pure sarcasm, but if I can find you and I have a particular set of skills, I will find you. Don't call my cell phone.
Liam Neeson, all the
way. I literally, I called a 3PL that our customer forced us to use, and I called him from my cell phone because at our plant, at our company, we don't have desk phones. We have a little puck that hooks into the computer. It's all VoIP. And so it's just easier to call from my cell phone. And I called this guy who was at our customer, and he gave my cell phone number unknowingly to the board, the 3PL that they use. My cell phone number's out on this load board.
Wow.
I'm willing to drive down there. I've sent 100 emails, but yeah, it was not cool. I was getting phone calls at 3 a.m. asking for freight, and I don't know who's shopping the freight market at 3 a.m. But
there's actually a lot of
terrible time to cold call.
Shopping the load boards at 3 a.m. There's a lot of people that do that.
Bad time to cold call.
Yeah. So if I guess, and just to go back to Ryan's question here for a moment. So, obviously data is out there, and to collect data is fairly simple in today's market. So if you were to get a kind of like just a sales call on your cell phone, or a text on your cell phone saying, "Hey, this is who I am. Do you have some time for a meeting?" That would be kind of a no-no. It's off limits, or it's kind of.
I don't ever answer those. Never.
Okay. So keep it to your office line and email.
Yeah. I mean, if you can figure out how to get a hold of me on my desk phone at work, then, I might take the time to acknowledge that.
Got it. Okay.
But the unsolicited email asking about parcel, ocean, and all the stuff that we don't do, I'm not answering that either.
Yeah.
Got it. No, it makes sense. I mean, if you're thinking about if you're having calls quadrupled. So another big question that we ask every customer that comes on is, how much more time is spent on things you never had to do prior to COVID?
I don't know if there is. I mean, it's just the volume has gone up so dramatically that it's not stuff that we never did. It's just there's just more of it.
Got it. So meaning less time to talk to salespeople and possibly onboard somebody. And so even more important that to get your attention right off the bat and kind of secure that spot. And when somebody cold calls you, are you looking for them to get you to the point where you're going to stop immediately and start looking at their time? Or would you respond better to somebody saying, "Hey, listen, got it. No, you're not expecting my call. You weren't sitting here waiting for 3 hours for Dan to call. Is there a time that we can meet where we could both block out some time?" What would be the kind of process that you would say would be better?
I don't like either of those. What I do like is somebody who's done their homework. In a cold call or a cold email, again, if you're telling me about your ocean capacity, I don't want to do business with you because you're too lazy to do your homework. Mm-hmm. If you call up and tell me what we're doing and how you are a fit for that, okay, now you've got my attention a little bit. And let's talk. If I ask you, are you asset based, and you have a owner op network, you're not asset based. You're a broker. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you try and steer away from the brokerage, I'm going to ask you for your MC or your DOT number, and I'm going to look at FMCSA and find out. If you're a carrier that I know and trust,
transparency.
Yeah, I mean, be honest and do your homework. I mean, literally, that's all it takes. Instead of 800 calls, make 8 that are good.
You know what? Be honest and do your homework. That brings us to The lane of the day.
Homework.
Talking about homework. You see that? That's lane of the day is homework, brother. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. And you know what? Christina Ellington and Dean and the team at DAT are doing a remarkable job. They get it to me all the time. This is awesome. So the lane of the day today is dry van. Jacksonville, Florida, Memphis, Tennessee. Line haul rate per mile $1.90 with fuel surcharge. All in is $2.64. Now here's the kicker. That's spot market. Contracted rates, including fuel, are $2.08 a mile. So for the first time in a while, we've seen that spot market rate overcome the contracted rate.
Yeah.
But year over year, the spot market line haul rate is actually down 16 cents per mile. So the 12-month high was $2.09 in May 2021. Rates were flat in Q1 2022 and trending upwards since May. 18 cents a mile higher than the May average. So even before it started climbing, spot rate was higher than contract. So that is your DAT lane of the day today, folks.
Thank you, Dad.
So we got now. I know we're geez. These
we got some questions. We got to get to them.
Yeah,
keep them coming.
So Joshua says, Joshua, how you doing, brother?
I
think part of its weakness in the spot market is if you have contracted volumes, freight is pretty steady. But if your book is spot heavy, you're probably spending more time with prospecting just as a broker perspective. For sure, probably. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Joshua also says, as a broker, it's critical to understand that facilitating truckload shipments is facilitating the lifeblood of their business. And that's for sure. I mean, Tony said that right at the beginning. Like, guys, when we screw up, he has a lot of things to answer for. We've said it. Gosh, it's been over almost a decade and a half I've been saying it. Tony, your job is very visual. I often refer to it as, you're sitting on the couch, it's 2:00 in the morning and some infomercial comes on to sell you some widget. And you're like, damn, that'd be pretty cool. You pull out your credit card, you buy it. If you're with your buddies and you're sitting on the couch and this infomercial comes on, they're like, oh my God, that is so stupid. And you're like, I actually thought that was, you're not going to pull your wallet out. You might take a picture and go, the next day go and buy it. But the visual decision that you make to bring somebody on to fulfill your supply chain, when things go wrong, there's a lot of questions that get asked. Yeah. And you got to be ready to answer them. So I agree. Daman says 100% our job as a broker or carriers, even brokers, is to make our partners, the person that puts you in charge of the freight, look like superstars. We have to realize that people's career and livelihoods depend on us providing them the best service possible. Absolutely. Jeff says,
Daman, you're right, because my job is to make my boss look good.
Yes,
exactly. And it's everyone down up the pipe. Everyone up the pipe has to make the person above them look good. I like that, Tony. That's your job to make your boss look good. Tony, it's a fact in the logistics. Not one day goes by without an issue. So what prevents you from reaching your daily goals and objectives?
Time. I run out of time every day.
Every day? Really?
Every single day.
And what do you find? Is it just a matter of waiting for people, or is it just a matter of too many things going on and not enough people in the mix? What's the reason?
So if you've ever been on this side of the dock, there's 73 irons in the fire. I booked a load yesterday that's a round trip to some nowhere, Ohio to here, which is nowhere, Indiana. And I told the guy, I was like, here's the flexible part. You don't have to run this load in a round trip in one truck. You want to run a truck this way and a truck this way, that's cool. I don't care. But this is the critical part. Do whatever you need to do and then get back to me. And then I have to give that to, however many people that we want to go through the bid process with, because I don't necessarily want to throw out a two-way where one of them doesn't matter and the other one is critical out on the spot board. But if I put it together, I'm going to get a better deal than if I put two single one-ways. But if a broker is awarded the load and they want to do it that way, good for you. But that's what I'm saying. There's 17 irons in the fire and that's for 3 days from now, yesterday. And I'm still working on today. So everything that we do is happening tomorrow or the next day. And sometimes there's still fires today. There's a driver with a flat, his card's being declined. What do I do? Well, I'll call you and use mine, but that's happening now, but I still have to book that stuff for Wednesday and Thursday today while that guy's on the phone.
That's interesting. That actually leads us right into Damon's question where he says, how much do you value someone who responds right away versus someone who takes hours to respond?
Way up. Move up the chain, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Communication's key.
Yeah. What is your preference?
Really?
Carrier, broker? What's your deciding factors on the two? There's some serious questions being
Ooh.
fired at you this morning, Tony.
So here's the deal. As a shipper, everywhere I've been, and it's just kind of an unwritten rule, we want to be 80-20.
Okay.
80 broker, 80 carrier.
80 carrier.
80 carrier.
Yeah, 20
I mean,
broker.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's anything formally about that, but that's just the way I've always seen it, because if you're not dealing direct, you're not getting the best rate. A broker, as valuable as they are, should only be a small percent of the market. And the shippers that are using brokers for everything, I'm sorry, brokers, but that's the wrong shipper. That's not a guy that knows what they're doing.
Mm.
And what would be your reasoning behind that?
Do you want to buy from the manufacturer, or do you want to buy from the distributor?
Okay, interesting.
You're taking out a middleman.
You're taking out a middleman.
No, for sure. Now I'm gonna play devil's advocate and challenge you here on this, because I think it's important. So what if your buying power is not as big as my buying power, and I can actually get you better buying power, better service than going direct, because you're a number versus an actual client?
Then I counter you with, what's your fail rate?
Okay. Nope, for sure. Meaning like on-time performance rate?
Giving me the load back. If you're looking at me as a huge shipper, which, I mean, I'm a part of a huge shipper, but I'm just one guy at one little plant. So I'm nobody, but we're a Fortune 1000 company right now. And, we're getting ready to break into the 500. Nice. And I think we have some pretty decent buying power. But even if we didn't have that collective buying power from all of the multiple locations worldwide, it's still it comes down to the value. What's the value you bring? If you can bring better value than I can get, great, I'll use you.
Okay. And what is, I guess the big question is, and I know this is very individual, but what's value in your eyes?
Service over cost.
Service over cost. And what does service mean to you?
Do you communicate quickly? And do you answer the phone when I need it? I don't need an update when the load's going right. I don't care. I assume it's going right because I gave it to somebody I trust. You don't need to update me every 30 minutes, an hour. I don't need any of that track and trace crap that's really important to you. It's not important to me. Not whatsoever. I don't want to know that the guy sitting on the side of the road with a flat tire. I want to know that you've got a truck coming to change that tire, and the ETA is now 30 minutes longer than it used to be. I don't want to see your receipts from the breakdown. That's for you and your carrier. I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to know that it got done. There was an issue. I handled it. Here's why it's okay. And I'm going to say, man, this guy's got his act together. Or gal. A lot of the girls are really good in this space, and they should be. We need to use more women in logistics.
They're more trustworthy.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of shippers are doing that capture savings. I did a whole RFP, was number one on my Murad of lanes, and then the customer put them in the spot market because they wanted to save money. Yeah, and Joshua, that's why I asked that question, because we actually saw that a mass exodus of contracts in 2019. I don't know if you guys remember. In 2018 was probably the first year where like there was more contracts in bid in 2018 that I'd seen in my entire career. And come 2019, 95 to 98% of those were in the trash because spot market was so much cheaper. I don't know if you guys remember how drastic numbers dropped in 2019.
It was insane.
But it was insane. And we found the same thing, Joshua, that a lot of shippers that put these bids out to save, lock in capacity, lock in pricing, saw the opportunity in the spot market. And I think that's a path that Tony, most shippers are going to go to, because
they
have to look after your bottom line as well. Like everyone's got to be profitable.
Again, we're trying to make money. They're trying to make money, but they're trying to save on their shipping at the same time. So
listen, in manufacturing, shipping is a non-value. It's a value add. It's a non-ROI. It's just an I.
Yeah. It's just
so I have to minimize that.
Yeah.
Right. It's a necessary evil.
Yes.
100%.
I agree.
It is a necessary evil. However, it's the only thing that gets your product to market in order to be able to sell your product. Which, right? So I remember having that conversation.
It's a very
with customers.
important necessary evil.
Well, it's the most important, because you can have the greatest product in the world. If you never get it in my hand so I can use it, it's crap. And that's just what it is. And it's, so it's this, I've always felt there's been this juxtaposition with freight, right? Your freight's in that 5, 7, 8% mark. You're in a lot of trouble because that chews right into bottom line margins. But if you don't have freight, you don't get product to market. People don't buy your product. But the first thing, and what I found, and I'll ask the question to you, if this is what you see as well, Tony, one of the first things you see when companies try and cut costs is, how can we cut freight costs?
Do you see everybody ask that question? I've been asked that question. I actually interviewed for a job. I declined an interview for a job once because this manufacturer had custom equipment to haul their custom product. And they came to me and the recruiter said, hey, management has gotten together and their business is growing and they want to cut freight by 50%. And I said, that's a ridiculous ask. That's like going to the production supervisor and say, I want to cut electrical usage by 50%. And then increase up. That tells me I don't want to work for a place that doesn't understand what it is they're asking of me. So I just was like, I'm not interested. But yeah, I mean, you have to be the expert. And unfortunately, I mean, brokers, you can take notes here because most shippers are terrible. Terrible. It's a guy that used to work on the line that they put in shipping because he was reliable and showed up every day, or knows how to use the system that no one else does. And it's not because they're good and experienced and have spent time doing each asset or each aspect of logistics. It's because they got a guy that'll sit in the desk.
That's interesting. It's very interesting that you say that, because nowadays, if you just show up, it's like 90% of the battle, just showing up to the office.
Well, that's what they're fighting with now. Ryan, great question.
I was speaking to a gentleman this morning, a good friend of mine in Aaron Ocean, massive 4PL. He says, Dan, we had 4 people scheduled to start work. None of them showed up. None of them. He goes, it's just crazy. He goes, we have interviews, like 10 interviews in a day. And we schedule 10 interviews because we know 50% of them to 60 to 70% aren't going to show up. Crazy.
Yep. We double
Ryan
schedule
says,
stuff
how
all the
often
time.
do you give referrals, Tony?
Pretty frequently. I mean, there's no like super secret shipping guy network, but it is kind of out there. There's like guys, we know who we are. Like John Brewer, good friend. I know him. Yeah. He's never asked me for a referral. I mean, I'd be asking him. He's the guru. But there's lots of folks out there in town, around town. I live in a large manufacturing area. We know each other because we work together at some point, and we talk.
So even behind the scenes, so somebody works with you and then solicits a company down the road, you guys are going to probably talk at one point or another.
Oh yeah. If my wife's friends with their neighbor's cousin, we're going to find each other eventually, because when you're sitting there at that barbecue, you're talking about logistics, because that's what we do, right? And you're going to find that guy that drives for XPO in the corner, and the next thing you know, you're talking to his boss. And yeah.
What about if a sales rep asked you if they could use your name as a reference? I work with Tony down the road. Don't know if you know Tony, would give him a call kind of thing. Would you, on a supplier of yours that works well with you?
I've had that question a couple of times only. It's actually kind of surprising how little that happens, but I have okayed that to people that I wouldn't have a problem with using my name.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like I have some carrier partners that I would swear by.
Nice.
It's actually a shame that you don't get asked that more often, because you are a better salesperson than anyone that's on this call, listening to this call, or will ever even hear this call. You are a better salesperson to the person down the road to get that business.
Right.
Yes.
Because that guy can be brand new, and we can suddenly validate your existence.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. I agree.
So Jeff comes back with another question. Tony, as a horse transporter for Double D Equine, you set yourself up well for entering the logistics field by dealing with bitchy horse people with great demands. Laugh out loud. But true, I was one of them until I bought my own rig for my own. So we have needs. What are your carrier needs at the moment?
Ooh.
Good communication and reliability. Trucks break down. They're full of moving parts. Drivers quit mid-load. Stuff happens. It's logistics. I mean, that's why we love this game, right? Because it's piecing together that puzzle in a way that works, even though it might not be right. Right? It may not go according to plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Never the same day or never the same problem.
Yeah.
Right?
If everything went according to plan, it would be awesome.
Oh,
it'd be automated. If everything went according to plan, it'd be automated.
Yes, it would. Absolutely.
Yeah, a computer would do it. Exactly.
Yeah. Tyler says Lippert's buying power is bigger than most unless it's CH or TQ. And then Josh says, I think it depends on the size of the shipper. That's probably going back to my comment if you could buy it cheaper. Yeah. Have brokers ever let you down in the market when the market changes, spot market change? What excuse do you get? What do your carriers ever leave you hanging on freight when the market shifts?
Let me find my book. I have a whole volume on that.
I'm sure always.
So you find also carriers drop you when prices change and they go after the higher paying freight.
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
It's not really. Yeah, carriers do it too, but it's probably 10 to 1.
So 10 brokers to every one carrier does it?
In my experience, that may be way off. Maybe I'm just a unique individual.
Dan, I think it's the training that's done on this side of the table, man.
I mean, listen, DJ, we know the training in this world is
you know what I'm saying.
Like it's crazy. But yeah.
Let me tell you how much training there is for a shipper.
0. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. So you get 2 window lickers in the same room and it's not going to turn out well. You know what I'm saying? Like,
hey, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Lisa says, knowing what info is important and relevant and to you and what's not. Knowing what info is important and relevant to you and what's not. 100%. Tony said, Daman says, Tony, thank you so much for answering the questions. Appreciate all the feedback.
Thank you, Tony. Seriously.
Seriously. And then Lisa says, would you be willing to lock in rates long-term with a partner and avoid switching the spot versus contract rate when the market shifts?
Oh, good question.
Again, if the market moves like it has in the past month and I'm stuck paying, I'm going to have to answer for that. Give me a reason. I mean, if I have a legit reason, I might be able to justify that. If I don't have a reason and it's just, we decided to lock in rates. You guys hiring?
And a legit reason would be like, 4 months ago with capacity being super tight, you lock in rates in order to secure capacity, get guaranteed capacity. And then that would be obviously a legit reason because your product's great. But if it doesn't get to your customer,
I love the guaranteed capacity and guaranteed rate thing. Everybody on this call, everybody watching the replay knows there is no guarantee in any of this. There's no guaranteed capacity because trucks break. There's no guaranteed rate because the market changes. There's no guaranteed load because the one that I booked didn't get built.
I like that. You put it back on you.
We're all to blame. It's all good.
But I like that because it wasn't like the carrier didn't show up. It was, hey guys, we had a load schedule. We're dealing with it right now. Deal with a large concrete company, and it was like all of a sudden just tap turned off, and I called and said, everything okay? Like, did we do something wrong? And he says, no, just no concrete. Like, what? He goes, oh yeah, the dyes and everything, like everything just all of a sudden dried up. We're waiting for stuff to come in. It's being held up here, being held up there, and like they have half the product, but they don't have the other half to put it together to make the. And I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah. He goes, it's crazy. And then I'm like, well, I need concrete for my backyard. He's like, you better get out and get it. And I went. It was like $4 more a bag. It was crazy. Wow. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. So Tyler's kind of feeding off what you said. How can you lock in a volatile market? But our carriers letting you know when the market dips. How do you keep a gauge of the market and what it tells you? Have you tested the market in the last 3 months?
Good question, Sam.
That's why we look at our contracted rates versus spot on almost every load.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we spot bid something, a carrier that has a contracted rate, it automatically populates that contract in there. I can look at it both at the same time.
Got it. Jeff says, how do you help your carriers? What questions do you ask your carriers to find opportunities?
So recently, in the past couple of years, this trend has taken off big time. some of the greatest carriers that I've ever dealt with have a brokerage arm. And when you continue to book with them and suddenly, you know, Bob's Country Trucking shows up and you booked it with XYZ, your next call is a little different. What? How? Why? If I'm going to onboard an asset-based carrier and you're going to broker all of my stuff, maybe we're not the best pair anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get on with a carrier that's going to tell you that they're only going to use their trucks. See how that conversation goes.
Yeah, and they must only use their trucks. See how that goes. Jeff says, and you knew this was coming. Jeff says, thanks for dealing with all my questions, Tony. When do we start doing business? LOL. I knew Jeff the man. He was going to throw that bad boy in at the end.
I love it.
He's a New Yorker from Jersey, man.
Yeah, listen,
around, you know what I'm saying?
You're on the hook now, Tony. No, just kidding.
That was awesome. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you being here, brother. You know what? You gave us so much insight into your world.
Oh my goodness.
How decisions are made. And I think, you know, for every sales rep watching and listening, go back and watch this replay. You know, you heard it once, you might've been typing and asking questions in it, but listen to the questions like Daman, Lisa, Jeff asked, and Ryan. And really, if you're going to do anything, go back. And I'm sorry, I'm just filtering through here to make sure if we answer them all. Lisa's got one more. And when you're doing it, listen with an open mind. And hear what Tony said. He just gave you deep insight into what every single person you call is thinking and has to do. That is so important. And when you can plant that at the forefront and being paramount in every call, you're really going to make a big difference. What if another carrier provides service that is needed to get the job done?
I think she's talking about when you book with one asset base and they're brokering out. That might be where she's maybe okay, yeah. And then the service that can actually get the job done because maybe one of their trucks broke. But if I can answer that for you, Tony, does that not go back to communication? Hey, Tony, FYI, we had a truck breakdown, but we brokered it out to this one, so you are going to see Countryman Transport come in instead of XYZ. I apologize, but we're going to mitigate it, but we just want to make sure that you were still running. And
again, bring me a solution, not a problem.
Communication. And the communication.
DJ, I hope you have a quote talking about solutions, not a problem, because that would be I don't, but I do have a quote about value. But okay, bring it on. Let's go. Thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you for the insight, my man. Oh, that was awesome.
Tony, thanks, guys. I appreciate it being on.
Seriously. Answering all the questions, the hard questions. Guys, I'll give you a secret that Tony, and I know everybody is not giving, but Tony did give it the most out of anybody we asked so far. Find out from these guys what will help them make their boss look better. Then, there you go.
Tyler says he's southbound in 2 weeks visiting clients. Would love to meet and learn more from you. Enjoy the long weekend. So I think you're gonna have a solicitor show up at your door there, Tony. And then Daman says, Tony, fire, thankful. Yes, if communicated, 100%. Lisa.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
Seriously, thank you, Tony. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Man, those questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Y'all were great.
Yeah, y'all brought the heat with the questions today.
Holy cow! Yes,
it was good.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for listening,
joining us daily. Thank you to American Logistics, Centurion Trucking, Daman. Shout out. People over profits.
That's right.
Great. Listen, guys, this is the lead up to tomorrow, Triple D Day. We got the man on, so get ready. And gonna find out what's going on in the market right now, and maybe give Tony some answers to maybe some lanes he might be having questions with as well.
Oh, I'm watching.
All right. But thank you guys again for joining us. Here's my quotes. I can't tell who it's from. It's so blurry. But I just love the quote so much, I kept it. So, values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do.
I like that.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at